no longer enough for you to look at how the world impacts your company or your investment. It's important and imperative, even in the days that we are in, that you should look at how you impact the world. And that's what makes a whole lot of difference. That is where you can gain your competitive advantage. How do I impact my world? ESG governance structure. What is your executive compensation? It has to be made public. It has to be reported. You need to see it. There should be transparency. Now, you find organizations where there's the C-suites, like or maybe the CEO, and so much more than the employees. Some people say, well, that's the deserving, they are the CEO, but that does not make for social justice. It doesn't make for proper management of the organization, because when that compensation are too high, it now amounts to wastages, wasting the resources, wasting the finances. So these are issues that are now being spoken against and being brought to the fore. Imagine economies and developing countries, you might be like, oh, that's not an issue. It's the person's done. Let him have his done and feel good. But in reality, these are really issues, because it's not only that was a very big issue in Facebook. How do you do your business? Do you do your business with no regard to how it impacts other people? That's what we talk about ethics, and that's why I usually say that ESG, that ethics is the heart of ESG, and an ethical person can never be ESG compliant, because ethics has to do with the right way of doing things. The right way of doing things. It has to do with morality. Is it the right thing to be done by a rational person? So business ethics is important to talk about transparency, accountability, integrity in what you're doing. How we said that the key focus areas for corporate strategy is market standing, which has to do with your customers. It's productivity, we have to do with your employee and your operations. It has to do with your financing, it has to do with your investors, your shareholders, and then your profitability. It has to do with your return on investments and your performance. So we see that ESG addresses all these key areas, focus areas of corporate strategy. And you see that it addresses it in a very and a more holistic way, as against how it is done when you're looking at how the world impacts your company. You see that ESG brings another layer and makes it more robust and proactive when you start looking at how you impact the world, because your actions always brings about a reaction. And when your action is negative, it will bring about a negative reaction that will impact your organization, its performance, and its operations negatively. It's no longer the time for the customer is king, or the managers are king, or the employees are king. Now every stakeholder is king. Stakeholder salience. Harvard Business Review report says the purpose of a corporation is not just to serve shareholders, but to create value for all stakeholders. So it's no longer about the shareholders. It's no longer about the customers. It's about creating value for all stakeholders. And who are these stakeholders? We have investors. There are many stakeholders to a company, but we have we have investors, we have employees, we have the regulators include government and private regulators, we have the customers, we have the suppliers, we have the public, that is the community in which you are doing your business, the local community and also the international community. Now the public is now closer than it used to be, because in this era of social media, the whole world is like your community. So these stakeholders are now becoming very important and prominent in the scheme of things. They can no longer be ignored in doing a stakeholder analysis. It's not enough to say, oh, this don't have power. In ESG, you really need to look at all the stakeholders, because you must create value for each of them, and they have a way that they can impact your company positively or negatively in the short and in the long run, that they will need a robust and clear sustainability strategy, or they will find it increasingly difficult to get financing. And this is from Sustainable Future News. And this is true. Because many investors are now embracing the ESG strategy. It's time. It might now become mandatory. If you want to get investments, if you want to get this, you have to report. Just like before you can get finance, both for equity or debt, you have to submit your financials. The investors have to look at your financial statement and see, okay, based on this, what we are seeing here, do we want to invest in this? So also, it will soon now become a requirement, and we're getting there, become a requirement that before we invest in you, before we give you our money, we want to see your ESG report. We want to see your sustainability report to know whether we should invest or not. But this is where it is going to be. So that is why you as a company, you have to include ESG in your strategy.